Greetings YouTube and welcome to the Blue Corner, and your eyes do not deceive you. This is in fact a premium Narukami deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard. My original video I was going to do was a box opening for D Set 1, Genesis of the 5 Greats, but we just don't have it in stock in my city yet because of shipping issues. Living in Regina sucks for many reasons, and so instead we're just going to go over Narukami Premium with the release of Divine Lightning Radiance, my bad. The deck has changed, and I also have not proxied full Brontos and Stun versus, so I figured, you know what, let's just go over this. So, yeah. As far as premium format as a whole goes, anyone who's played the format competitively will tell you that it's super toxic, but if you play it casually and like not play any of the top cancerous decks, it's apparently a blast to be in. Decks of the power level of this are pretty cool, and hopefully, now that they are somewhat paying attention to premium, at least with what's being reprinted in the Revival Selection, and the introduction of Healed Guardians and such, maybe they're actually going to take a proactive approach and hit the problematic decks. We'll have to see. I do have more confidence in Bushiroad this year than the Bushiroad of the last couple of years, and if they actually do take the axe to decks like Nuadayo and whatnot, then we might actually have a format where this deck can be as strong as we were hoping it to be, because in a vacuum, Stun vs. Dragon is really strong. It's just, unfortunately, such has been the case often with Narukami, the time when they get a really stupidly strong card, something even more busted is printed in the same set. So, with that being said, let's get into the deck profile. So, for the starter, it's any V starter, just because you get that draw going first. Otherwise, yeah, you could pick a D starter too, but again, V starters are just the best, and Narukami's old starters aren't very good. Then for the grade 3s, 3 copies of Dragonic Vanquisher full Bronto, and 3 copies of Dragonic Vanquisher, alongside 4 copies of Jaggy Shot Dragoon. So Jaggy Shot's max because it's not searchable, and he is your starter extender. Like, we all know how good Jaggy Shot is. I don't really need to explain why I'm maxing on him. As far as the other guys go, the ratio is a little skewed because you got to make room for some stuff in here because it is premium Narukami, and there's a couple good Thunderstrike cards to play in here. But the other one is that old Mighty Bolt Dragoon can search these, so you can get whatever Vanquisher you need as long as you have Mighty Bolt, and you still have the Chain Bolt Dragoon to search them out as well. Plus the draw power that Stun vs. Dragon gets you means that you should be able to get into your full Brontos. And yeah, not much to say here. Like, Dragonic Vanquisher, his plus 10k is still very good, and he is what you'll be going into after you stun versus your opponent. And then you've got full Bronto, who is a second attack, gets you more XLs, and yeah, not much to say here. Like, going into full Bronto after you stun versus your opponent, or rather doing your standard Dragonic Vanquisher combo, or the standard Dragonic Vanquisher combo, after you stun versus your opponent, going into full Bronto is pretty strong. Much to read to say here. Then for the grade 2s, 4 of the recently unrestricted Cho-Oh, as in this format, he's pretty good. You can set up Dragonic Vanquisher's buff with Stun Verse quite easily. Him on a voltage turn is very strong, and he also gives you some much needed early game if you have the Counterblast for it, but this is again lower tiered premium, so you'll have that, plus the upcoming Healed Guardians will give you the Counterblast needed to use Cho-Oh's restand. So like, he's just a good counter pusher and an aggressor as well. Then 4 copies of Rock Climb Dragoon. He's your extender because of Shatra, who's still one of your best beat sticks. Not much to say here. Like, you've seen V premium Dragonic Vanquisher deck profiles aplenty, and this isn't that much different. Like, it's standard plus. Then moving on to the grade 1s, 4 copies of Chain Bolt Dragoon. He searches out your Dragonic Vanquishers, and he is another extender. Not much else to say here. Then we get to the older stuff. So 4 copies of old Mighty Bolt Dragoon. He's your stride fodder, so if you stride, you can use him as a grade 3. And then when placed on Vanguard, reveal any grade 3 in your hand and add a Vanquisher card from your deck to your hand, discard 1. This is what allows you to correct your ride for getting to either Dragonic Vanquisher if you need to ride base Vanquisher, or full Bronto if you already have the base Vanquisher. Not much else to say here. Like, these cards are good in decks like this, and will be good for a while yet. With Healed Guardians coming in and being grade 3s, I don't know if these will continue to stick around, because the Heal Guardians can be used as stride fodder in a pinch, and most importantly, you can use the grade 3 searchers to get those, so you'll be able to use these cards in order to have not only access to stride fodder, but also to your G Guardians, which I think will ultimately supplant these in terms of versatility. And if that's the case, then this deck may see raised ratios for Dragonic, Vanquisher, and full Bronto. And then rounding out the grade 1s, 3 copies of Smashboxer Dragon. 1 stun versus Dragon immediately turns this thing on, and it gives you some much needed counterblast and soul and draw power. Nothing else just to see here. You don't have any other units with the Thunderstrike ability, so his GB1, his first GB1 effect doesn't mean anything, implying that good Thunderstrike units other than this card exist. And then moving on to the triggers, 4 copies of the Stride Fodder crit, 3 copies of the Into the Soul crit, then 4 draw triggers, 4 heal triggers, playing the vanilla ones because they have the higher shield value. Then these will obviously be dropped for our Healed Guardian. And then lastly, 1 over trigger. I don't have the Dragon Empire one for reasons I said at the beginning of the video, so I'm just playing this guy. Obviously, the Dragon Empire one is the better one because it restands your Vanguard, and given that one of the strides in this deck has quad drive, that's 8 drive checks in a turn, but more realistically, it just means you get to swing with, whatchamacallit, voltage a second time, and if he hit the first time, then you get to bind 2 more things and buff up your front row even more. I'm curious what the Dragon Empire stand triggers interaction with VMAX is. Do you get to burn your opponent 2 times then if you have 4 open counterblast? That's something I'll have to ask somebody. And speaking of the strides, let's just get right into them. So, only 2 copies of Stun vs. Dragon. You're never going to go into the third one. If you had the opportunity to go into the third one, or rather, here's how it really is. Like, if you resolve 2 of these things, your opponent's bind zone will be so loaded that you can just go into the voltage and just smash your opponent's face in with even beefier Vanquisher lines. And that's why we're playing 4 copies of voltage, because he is your finisher stride. And I know I said this in the last time I profiled this particular deck, but it's still funny how what's arguably the oldest card in my G zone is also the strongest one now, or one of the strongest ones, as yeah, voltage has just aged really well as far as his GB3 goes, but Stun vs. Dragon goes a long way, and V Narcomi being bind focused also really helps. Then running out the strides, 2 copies of V Buster. This is what you go into if your opponent has a minimal board and like literally just 1 or less rear guards, and their drop zone is also 1 or less, because you don't want to waste a Stun vs. Dragon for only 2 binds. Instead, you go into V Buster and then get those 2 binds and also spread 3k out. And there's also his Generation Break 3, Thunderstrike 7. Your front row gets 5k, and he gets quad drive and a crit. Probably will not come up. Like, if you're trying to kill your opponent, you're going to go into Voltage or VMAX. Almost never do this, but it's a flip target for VMAX, and yeah, it's just your alternative first stride. Ideally, somewhere down the road, they print a better first stride for this clan, but we will see. Then 2 copies of VMAX. I don't own Drachma, and truth be told, I don't really think you need Drachma. And the Progenitor Dragon, what's his name? Gilgar? Like, if you're in a position to first stride, you're going to be going into Stun vs. Dragon more often than not. So I don't think the Progenitor Dragon is all that needed, especially now that we have Stride Fodder crits. And yeah, Drachma, you can make the argument for him because he does hand grip and power down your opponent's Vanguard potentially, but at the same time though, I think your other strides are just stronger. And granted, this could be literally anything else, but yeah, like I'm just playing the second VMAX in here because you have the potential to OT, or rather kill your opponent even if they're at 5 damage thanks to his burn effect. And since this deck barely counterblasts, you have the opportunity to go into VMAX a second time, but I'll cut this for literally anything else at some point. And then lastly, the Generation Break 8 for Naros, because Closer Dragon is still pretty effing strong. Not much else to say here. It's just a voltage that makes your board really swole, and combing this with Cho-Oh's pretty good. And then running out the G Guardians, 2 copies of Impede Dragon. I'm looking forward to this guy getting the potential SP in the Revival Selection set. It'll be a pricey SP though, but it will be a very nice looking one. Impede's one of the best G Guards in the game, in my opinion. Being able to pop 1 or 2 is really cool. Obviously, this deck can't take full advantage of it like Sweep Command could, but that's whatever. And then 2 copies of Bulwark Dragon. Stunverse makes this card stupidly good. It's a big shield. It gets around cards that says you can't use your auto abilities, and he has the potential to pop the front row. And then lastly, 1 copy of Vitres as your, if you have literally nothing to go G Guardian, or you've gone first and you get the opportunity to G Guard, then he is also a big shield. And then that is it for the deck. And that's it for the deck. In a nutshell, it's standard plus Narukami, which is fine by me. I really enjoyed the Dragonic Vanquisher deck and how it evolved. Granted, it became yet another Axel spam, power plus front row, into the front row, multi-attack, but I always felt that the Vanquisher full Bronto deck was pretty intuitive as far as like what it did, because like you had to be mindful of the cards you were using. Like it was a combo deck, something like you'd see in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just unfortunately it was too combo, and so many of its cards you never wanted to call down, so you had no early game. Like it was so piece reliant, and granted, if this deck high rolled in standard, it could do some silly shit. It was just unfortunately outclassed by other stuff, which is, well, the case here. But like, I'm one of the few people who enjoyed playing full Bronto, and it's definitely up there as far as one of my favorite Naru variants go. And I like the fact that Premium deck is able to retain that playstyle. It also helps that we finally got a playable Stride, and I don't see them printing anything to outdo Stunverse anytime soon, which is fine. If anything, I'd like to see them print a new Grade 3 boss monster, like a new Stride Bearer, to outdo the sorely outclassed Dragonic Vanquisher Sparking. And what else is there to really say? I know premium content isn't something I cover that often. It's just I don't really get many opportunities to play it because nobody in my local area really likes the format, or rather liked the format. It might change now because COVID's softened a lot of people's negative perceptions of a lot of things. See TOS format for Yu-Gi-Oh! And maybe when the pandemic's done and things open up, I can actually get some more premium games in. I can try and get a premium tournament started. Who knows? And that's all I really gotta say about that. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment down below on what you've been doing with your premium Narus when full Bronto came out, if you did, or if you've tried making something else work. I know there is a Kaiser deck running around that it employs the Spark Hero Dragon to Legion with Crimson, and I'm sure someone's tried making Descendant work in Premium, even though I imagine not very well, just because Stunverse and Descendant don't really work that well together. And Zillion is still so I don't know what they're gonna do with Premium Eradicators. Like, maybe Vowing Sword Dragon will finally make that deck work. I doubt it though, because I imagine Vowing Sword Dragon is going to be geared towards making Descendant work, because they've kind of kneecapped themselves in that situation. And if it makes Descendant work, it's probably not going to make work that well in Premium, so it's going to be Standard plus Vanquisher for the foreseeable future. But yep, that's all for now though. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time, this is Blue Star 89, jacking out.